Coming to you from the former United States of America, from deep in the heart of Texas, it's Alex Jones.
So, you've got Piers Morgan, who I really dislike because I know people that know him, and I know that he's a closet conservative. And back when we had our famous debate almost 4 years ago on CNN that they admit destroyed his career, basically, when I called him out, people behind the scenes said, no, Morgan actually likes guns. He's really a conservative. And then later, we learned that's the case. And when liberals stop funding him, he goes back to England and becomes more of a conservative and has been pro-Trump. But he's, again, riding the fence here, saying to Steven Seagal with that amazing red square behind him, saying, well, okay, you claim you love America, but you're in Russia. And I love how Putin said to Megyn Kelly in an interview, he said, Megyn, you keep saying Trump's bad for meeting me twice, since he was president. Megyn, you're constantly meeting me over the years. That means you're a Russian agent. None of this even makes sense. I guarantee you, when I go to Russia, I'm going to do the same shot with the red square behind me, very iconic. I want to see the Middle East. I want to see Russia. I've seen all over Europe and places. If I go to Germany, it doesn't mean I'm German. If I go to Baghdad, it doesn't mean I'm an Iraqi. And this is the mental illness where they want to bully everybody with political correctness now that, oh, it's the Russians too. You're not just a racist, Mr. Seagal, for supporting Trump, as the media said. Now, you're something even worse. You're a Ruski agent. So here's Piers Morgan at it again.
There will be some people, Stephen, who will be watching this interview. He's saying that and think you sound like a great patriotic guy, but they'll also see you in Moscow and being very complimentary about Vladimir Putin, who many Americans believe fixed the U.S. election, which is why Donald Trump became president. How do you juggle the fact that a lot of your fellow Americans are pretty unhappy about this?
Why don't we really be honest here, Piers? Let's be really honest. Every country is involved in espionage. Every single country. The American spy, the British spy, the Russian spy, we all spy on each other. Let's be honest. However, for anyone to think that Vladimir Putin had anything to do with fixing the elections, or even that the Russians have that kind of technology, is stupid. And, we have a situation here where really all of this is happening, in my opinion, from astronomical propaganda, and this kind of propaganda is really a diversion, from creating a diversion so that the people in the United States of America won't really see what's happening. And I think most of the people in the United States of America and most of the people in Russia want to like each other, and we need each other. Russia and America should be great allies, and that's the way it should be.
Well, I think that's absolutely right. I agree with you. Final question, Stephen. What are you up to movie-wise at the moment? Any big movies coming?
I just finished a movie called Attrition. It's a movie about human trafficking. It's a movie about kung fu. It's a movie about honor, and a great action movie. I'm just doing the post for it in Asia right now. And
all right, so that's Steven Seagal. I want to get him on the show. I talk to folks that know him. They say he's a listener. I told that like 10 years ago. And you're like, oh, yeah, Seagal's a listener. And then you see all this. He's clearly a very, very awake. By the way, they always spin that he says Putin's one of the greatest world leaders. The Council on Foreign Relations and the CIA have said Putin's the most powerful man in the world until Trump came along, because he's actually president. He actually is calling shots. You understand how that works? Yes, if you actually have a real president of a major country, they have a lot of power. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
I believe in free speech. I believe that everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I don't agree that they should hold the United States of America or the world hostage by taking a venue where people are tuning in to watch a football game and, imposing their political views. I think it's outrageous. I think it's a joke. It's disgusting. And, I respect the American flag, and I myself, have risked my life countless times for the American flag, and I don't understand or agree with this kind of behavior. I think it's an outrage.
That's Good Morning Britain, and it's the truth. We have best-selling author, researcher, filmmaker, millions of viewers and listeners today, Stefan Molyneux, joining us. He's got a new book out we're going to be telling you about as well. TheArtOfTheArgument.com is where you find it. I've been telling my crew to carry it in the store here, and we're going to be doing that very, very soon. But I wanted to get him on last week just about the whole DREAM Act and his point that, he thinks Trump is starting to go sideways some on that. And I agree. Trump, backing Luther Strange in Alabama, who's an establishment guy, and then he gets stabbed in the back by the Republican establishment who then wouldn't work with him on tax cuts or Obamacare. So you see Trump being repudiated now by the Republicans stabbing him in the back and by the American people going for Judge Moore, despite the fact that he was outspent more than 10-1. He raised $2 million. The establishment raised $33 million. Karl Rove, all the usual suspects, came into Alabama, where Karl Rove's from, and ran this whole operation in the face of the Patriot movement. So, see, the Patriots are defeating the Democrats, the Republican establishment, the globalists. We're fighting uphill and winning, trying to reboot America. And Trump understands that. He's even said in the last few days, hey, I think I picked the wrong guy. I was given bad advice. So Trump knows that. But he tried to work with the Republican establishment. Okay, I'll give you the guy you want in the Senate. Give me the tax cuts so we can save the economy. That's what he really wants to do. He gets that. If he can turn the economy around, keep it at 3% growth rate or more, get the jobs back, high-paying jobs, take care of the veterans, do basic stuff that he wants to deliver. You can read stories by people that have even written nasty, books about Trump admitting he'd flip out if the food wasn't good, flip out if the furniture wasn't nice, if the golf course wasn't the best for his people that were, coming and spending their money with him. I mean, Trump wants to give you what you're paying for, give you what you voted for. He's really trying to do it. But he has begun to go sideways because the swamp, what do you do in a swamp? You sink into it. But I'm thankful for cutting the carbon taxes, cutting out the regulations, cutting the illegal 69% coming into the country. I'm very, very thankful for killing the TPP. I'm very, very thankful for taking out ISIS. I'm very, very thankful for not letting Trump, just be pushed around by the Islamists anymore. There's been a lot of good, and a man by his enemies. The globalists hate his guts because he's taking power away from them. But that said, the fact that Trump and the Republican establishment were roundly repudiated, even though Trump gave Luther Strange lukewarm support, is very, very exciting because it shows this isn't about Trump. This isn't about Ron Paul. It isn't about Matt Drudge. It isn't about Alex Jones. It isn't about Stephen Bannon. It's about us. It's about you. It's about everybody together rediscovering Americana, rediscovering that, hey, our system's a lot better than North Korea or communist China or Venezuela. And we are saying no to this. And we don't care if the NFL bullies us. We don't care if you call us white supremacists. We don't care what you do. There's a major global realignment against what you've done. And the world is waking up to globalism and its unelected authoritarian crony capitalist nature. And the world's saying no. But why can't the establishment see it? Because they still watch the NFL. They still watch Hollywood. They still watch the news channels. And they still think that's the dominant culture. It's not. It's uncool. Being a celebrity's not cool. Who's the guy? I never really followed Cheers, but I watched it some. Is his name Ted Danson? He was the bartender? I don't watch a lot of TV, but we should pull up some of these ads. He does these Smirnoff vodka ads that are really good, where he comes in and makes fun of himself and makes fun of being a celebrity and what a joke it is. Because if you're just somebody because you're a celebrity, who cares? If you write great books, or you've got great ideas, or you make good food, or you climb amazing mountains, or you write beautiful music, or invent some type of medicine, I mean, then we admire you because we want to celebrate humanity together. But just, oh, you've got a private jet and a red carpet, and you've got a political view, you're going to force feed us, we're sick of that. And I've been saying this for a decade, but let me tell you something. A decade ago, I'd still get invited out to some Hollywood party. They'd send big private jets to pick me up. I'd still, okay, jump on the jet, fly over and do it. For 10 years, I won't even do it because it's so empty. It's like soul-sucking. And I thought, well, it must be L.A. Something in the atmosphere is the reason I feel so bad when I'm here. No. Then I've met in New York, or I've met in the middle of nowhere with Hollywood people, a bunch of them, and there's like something missing because they sold their souls, folks. It's spiritual. You can say, well, I don't believe in God. Maybe I didn't used to until I got around this stuff. You know, I knew there was a God. I wanted to believe in a God. I don't want to think I just die at the end of this. But, you know, you question things until you start really picking up on the energy of this. So, joining us for the rest of the hour is Stefan Molyneux with his new book out, The Art of the Argument, theartoftheargument.com. And we'll get into the DREAM Act and is Trump going sideways in the second part of the interview. I want to get directly, obviously, as he does, into the strategic genius of what Trump's done. Oh, you, for the third year, you want to bitch and complain and hijack sporting events and take them over in your pity party when you're these, you know, guys worth hundreds of millions of dollars and all the rest of it. He knows everybody's done with celebrity. He's always been the blue-collar billionaire. He knows this is the time to make this move. So he invokes them to attack him to show just how clear this attack on America is. And it's now been called the suicide of the NFL. They're now apologizing. They're now backing off. They're now hiring PR experts. They don't know what to do. So Stefan Molyneux, I mean, this just looks like pure victory to me. What do you think?
Well, they're coming for everything that you love. They're coming for everything that makes you happy. They're coming for everything that gives you joy and satisfaction and connection and pride and community. And yeah, they're coming for your sports teams. They're coming for your movies. They're coming for your music. The joyless people, the joyless brigade of happiness-eating zombies are coming, and they're not going to stop until you push back. They're trying to spread misery. You know that old phrase, misery loves company. There's a profoundly unhappy, discontented, neurotic people, and they kind of want to spread that mindset, and they do that by making you feel terrible for everything that you might potentially enjoy until you have nothing left to defend and they can take over.
Beautifully crystallized, like only Stefan Molyneux can do. So as the shrillness and the drum beat goes to fever pitch, ramming speed, when they've already turned it up to 11, where do they go next?
Well, I mean, they will continue as they did in Soviet Russia, as they're doing in South Africa. They will continue to erase your history. They will continue to strip down everything that you love and that makes you proud of where you came from. Oh, do you like Shakespeare? Sorry, just an old white racist dude. Ooh, do you like Dickens? Do you like Beethoven? Do you like John Locke? No, no, no. They were hidebound. They supported this, that, or the other. It was all imperialism and evil and nastiness and terror. I mean, it's just natural. This is the corrosive effect that this kind of rampant hostility has towards a particular culture. You know, other cultures, other worldviews are always trying to storm the ramparts of the West, of the good. And it is a terrible thing to see. And unfortunately, we just have to pick up the cultural weapons and fight back.
Why not just adopt the best parts of the West and the best parts of the East, like Japan's done? I mean, why not just adopt? Because the West is about adopting whatever works, whatever is prosperous. Why is there a war against that?
Well, I hate to say it, Alex, but it's sadly true. There's a war against it because we pay people to do it. You know, whatever you subsidize, you're going to get more of. And if race baiting, gender baiting, hostility and rage and contempt and aggression and action against the society gets paid, well, then, you know, if you get a riot, oh, look, let's spend more on welfare. Let's open up a youth center. Let's settle with people who've done egregious things with multi-million-dollar lawsuits and so on. So you keep paying for stuff. The more that you pay people who whine and rage and complain, the more of those people you're going to get. And at some point, the vending machine of white guilt has got to run dry. You know, if you keep pounding white people with racist, sexist, and so on, and we keep coughing up resources to make this pounding go away, we're just going to get more and more of it.
That's right. We've been paying the pirates so long. The pirates now eating the NFL. It's a giant trillion-pound spoiled rotten baby crapping all over us. Stefan Molyneux, the one and only, is our guest. He has a new book out, The Art of the Argument. You can find the book at artoftheargument.com. I'm Alex Jones, your host. Stefan, the globalists, it's in the WikiLeaks, want social conflict. They want to guilt everybody into accepting their agenda. Not real free stuff in the long run for the masses. But the backlash is so giant, how do you expect them to counterstrike? And what else is on your radar?
The counterstrike is, of course, the attempt to get the amnesty through, right? The DACA amnesty through. That is the counterstrike, and I think that they're working feverishly overtime through the GOP and through other avenues, through the media, to try and get the amnesty as much as possible. And of course, this is going to be a true test of the future of the Republic, whether there's going to be a future of the Republic or not. It's very clear that the researchers people in Mexico have an average IQ in the 80s. It doesn't change. You're importing a permanent underclass on average of people who are going to consistently vote for bigger and bigger government, which is why Americans did give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt and said, okay, he's not a politician, you know, he's not got much experience, but he sure is talking about building a wall and controlling illegal immigration and possibly even getting rid of, deporting or encouraging the self-deportation of the tens of millions of illegal immigrants in the United States. So people said, okay, I'm going to get involved. I did. I was not involved in politics for like 10 years of my public life. I'm like, okay, this is an important enough issue. And now, of course, the best you can hope for is that the rejection of amnesty seems to be the best you can hope for, as opposed to an end to DACA and the self-deportation or deportation of people in America illegally. And so this is one of these moments. People have to make their calls. They have to put their friendships on the line. They have to make the case. They have to call their congressman. They have to reject, as we saw with Luther Strange recently, they have to reject even the possibility of amnesty, or they're going to lose the Republic as sure as the sun is going to rise tomorrow.
Well, I think a lot of it's political. It's the brainwashing of the populations that are brought in and how the schools are designed to never even have basic nutrition. Just even CNN just admitted last week massive IQ reductions with fluoridated water. So much of this is coming out. I mean, I know you get into more just the ineptitude of the elites, and I tend to agree to that, but they also kind of have an overarching plan where they admittedly say we're going to use diet, injections, injunctions. Bertrand Russell said that. We're going to use fluoride to dumb people down. And I know it sounds crazy, but they've done that.
Well, and there are other things as well, of course. If you hit your children, it reduces their intelligence. If you don't breastfeed for the recommended sort of 12 to 18 months, it reduces intelligence, IQ points, and nobody knows how to recover it afterwards. So there is a war on the minds of children. And this needs to be reversed as well. This is one of the reasons I talk a lot about parenting and positive parenting practices in my show, because the children, of course, are the future of freedom. But again, right now, I mean, all of that stuff's going to show up in a generation.
By the way, let's talk about that. I mean, 100 years ago, they said we want assembly lines, women in work, formula for babies. They knew it was wrecking them. They knew it was creating basically soulless people to a certain extent. And it's so sad. What do people do in an economy set up where you cannot hardly survive and have kids unless you warehouse them?
Well, of course, throughout most of our evolution, Alex, we survived on 3 berries and a rabbit leg a day. You know, so the idea
exactly
that
they've built it where they've built all these expenses in artificially.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need a giant house. You know, I'd rather live in a trailer and be home with my daughter than live in a mansion and ship her off to some place. You know, the goal of the state has been for many years to separate parents from their newborns. Because, of course, you know, we're kind of like ducks in a way. We bond to whoever raises us. And if we're raised by the state, then we're going to bond with the state. We're going to view the state as not just a substitute parent, but a primary parent, and our actual parents is kind of like babysitters. So if they can get you to hand over your babies to the state, if they can get you, oh, put them in daycare, go back to work after 6 weeks or 8 weeks, don't worry. Interchangeable people will just be able to take care of them. They're just completely interchangeable relative to you as a mother or a father. Then you're going to get a kid who ends up bonding with the state. And then when the state says, oh, we're going to take care of you, people will say, well, what do I want my freedoms for? I've got a lovely nanny state here that's going to take care of me. Women marry it for welfare. Kids marry it for pseudo-education. Minorities marry it often for a bigger government. And there are those of us out there saying the state is not your friend. The state is a devil with a friendly mask, but the mask is coming off very quickly.
Look at Venezuela. How many times does socialism have to end in a giant disaster for people to... I mean, they're always saying, I want to be like Cuba where the health care is free. They don't have any type of real health care in Cuba. People come here from all over the world to get it, and we have problems. But it's just this... We want communism. It's like this West Point Army grad. We're going to come back and talk about that with Stefan Molyneux and get into a bunch of other subjects. What does the victory of Roy Moore against the Republican establishment signify? That's big. We'll also look at where he thinks Mueller's going and other big issues. But like Molyneux said, the designed attack to end the human community, to break up the family, is the greatest scientific evil of our age. And it's on purpose by the robber baron super elite. We'll be right back. You know, 22 years ago, we had liners. Some of these liners are 19 years old. Same guy doing the voice. And people say, a war on for your mind, an information war. Well, that's how the globalists and the social engineers saw it. So I had to explain, this is a war for your mind. We are a command center, not to tell you what to think or what to do, but to put out the information as best we see it so that folks understand there is a war happening. And people have responded, and Stephen Bannon calls it a war, and Trump calls it a war, because it is a war. And once you understand that the globalists want to dominate anybody else they see as successful, whether they be, you know, somebody living in Africa or somebody living in Japan or, you know, somebody living in Europe, it doesn't matter. They want full control. They're ruthless. They're sociopaths. They're psychopaths. And we have to be strong and admit who they are and stand against them. We're going to go back to Stefan Molyneux and cover a ton of this here in a moment. But first off, when you spread the articles and videos that are at newswars.com or infowars.com, that's a big act. I mean, they're doing everything they can to try to censor us. They're fighting to keep our information from the president. So much of it he gets handed to him on the campaign trail now or out, you know, campaigning for different things on his agenda. So you really do count with this president because he really does listen. A week before this special election yesterday, Trump came out and said, maybe I made a mistake. I went with the establishment trying to make a deal on repeal of Obamacare and tax cuts. But he's now learned they're not going to deal with him. He's going to learn the Democrats are going to stab him in the back. Mueller's not going to stop. We've got to be there so the president knows when all the chips are down, we're still here. But even if they take him down, which I don't think is going to happen, we're moving forward. We're awake. And this is happening globally. They may try to arrest everybody in Catalonia, trying to make their own country, which it's always been. They may try to ban, you know, this special election. They're going to lose the election, and the people will just culturally be separate, and Spain will never stop them from separating because they're now just not complying with anything, and it's game over. And you can't put a permanent army there when Catalonia supplies Spain with most of its productivity. It's over. So the breakaway you see in Catalonia is like the Atlas Shrugged of the modern world. We'll talk about that with Stefan Molyneux here in just a moment. But first, I mean, these are crazy headlines where troops on the streets arresting all the Catalonian leaders, putting them in an internment facility in a Western country. That's a new Spanish Civil War right there, ladies and gentlemen. So we're introducing essential oils. Essential oils obviously open up the passageways. They're good for the lungs. They're good for your sinus. Different known oils back to biblical times are associated with different healing effects or health effects. Just know this, for all of you that like essential oils, and Lord knows I like them, I put a steam room into one of my showers and just love putting the eucalyptus in there. This is Nature's Brands that I would already buy at Whole Foods because it's one of the highest rated, but at this kind of price. Private label by us, shipped directly to your door, and whether it's frankincense or myrrh or whether it's eucalyptus or orange peel, whatever it is all discounted 20 to 40% off out of the gates because There's a big national brand, folks, and ours is more concentrated, even better, that costs twice as much as ours. And I could easily sit there and probably make even more money doing that, but I like to treat you like I like to be treated. So we're introducing the new Emmerich Essentials line of essential oils at InfoWarsStore.com. We're proud to introduce an entire new line of all-natural, high-quality essential oils at the same great price you love the essential oils from Emmerich Essentials. We private label one of the most effective essential oils out there to bring you the power of aromatherapy in your home. They're pressed and extracted versions of some of the most popular herbs for healing and relaxation, and they've been used for centuries, well, actually thousands of years, across the world. We offer 8 different oils ranging from peppermint to frankincense that will help you experience the benefits of aromatherapy. If you try them all right now, there's a 25% off discount on Emmerich's Essentials oils when you get the entire collection of all 8 oils with all of the options and fragrances. Additionally, you can purchase a single bottle of your favorite essential oil to experience at the spa or home, and you can get it for less than you'll get it at the store or spa. Don't miss out on our newest edition of Emmerich's Essentials line with essential oils by Emmerich's Essentials. Experience what aromatherapy can do for you. Not just to mention what these oils do on your chest or the body. I mean, they really are amazing concentrates. And again, the folks powering this already sell it for less than the big national top brand. And they're one of the top ones as well because they're so respected and loved. But getting it from us, you're already getting it discounted from the store. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. Our award-winning Secret 12, Vitamin B12, is back in stock. BuzzFeed tested it and said it passed California standards. And then on the very site of the company they used to test it, that sells the stuff, they had the highest rated one up there that we private label from. So the very lab they had test ours says ours is rated the best B12 in the country. Talk about inadvertent advertising. That's 40% off. Take it under the tongue. It's amazing for energy, you name it. Vitamineral Fusion's been sold out for a while. It's back in stock, 50% off for a limited time. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. And speaking of plugs, we're in a culture war. You may already know a lot of what Stefan Molyneux is talking about or what I'm talking about, and I get that. So when I'm preaching at idiots out there, I'm talking to the lost sheep. I'm talking to the prodigal sons because, hey, we know you're already awake. It's the folks that aren't we're really trying to reach out to. But, really, I more and more disagree with that because those of us that are awake have just got to take care of ourselves and then wake up those that are ready to listen. And what a great thing to read and donate to the local library, or what a great thing to give to your judge or your doctor or your principal or your neighbor or your professor or to your husband or wife. The Art of the Argument, Stefan Molyneux. Available right there on theartoftheargument.com. Let's spend a few minutes on your book and how it comports and fits into what's happening today, and then let's get back into world events that are taking place.
Well, the goal, of course, is that we wish to negotiate, according to reason and evidence, our differences. All people are going to have differences, and that's productive. It is the sparks that sharpen the sword. It is the creative destruction of rational disagreement that moves our species forward and upwards in morality, in rationality, and civilization. So we basically are always going to have disagreements. We're either going to resolve them according to reason and evidence, or we're going to have to use the fist, the gun, the club, the state in one form or another. And of course, my goal in writing the book and in publicizing the book is to get people to understand how essential arguments are to civilization. They are civilization, and how to make them, how to spot sophistry, and to motivate people to pursue the art of the argument. And the art of the argument is a way to convince people with no threats. It's a way to convince people with no force. And it gives you your best chance at advancing your arguments in an increasingly anti-rational society. We've got people who are like, oh, if you're a conservative and you want to speak at a left-wing campus, man, what is it? They got to spend $1 million or more on security just to give you that chance. We got people getting shouted down. We got people showing up with menstrual blood or simulations of menstrual blood all over. They're screaming, shaking their fat arms and screaming about things. This is not how civilization works. Civilization works when we listen to each other, we commit to rationality, and we submit to the better argument. That's how you can't lose an argument, because if you're proven wrong, you've got the truth, which is more valuable than whatever you had before. So it is my goal to remind people all the way from the Socratic method forward, just how important the argument is, how much you need to commit to it, because the alternative is living hell on earth.
Continue here, because I've been jumping in on you and interrupting. Get into your main philosophy, what you're focused on right now. You know, the battle for Trump, the battle for nationalism. But I think this Roy Moore election landslide, 15-plus points, shows that Trump rode in on this wave. He isn't the wave. And again, I'm not abandoning Trump. He's doing a lot of good. It's just that he's surrounded. We have to realize we can't just count on Trump. It's us.
Well, what happened to Trump's people? You know, as you know, Alex, personnel is policy. You don't just magically have a policy that animates itself and writes itself and broadcasts itself. Personnel is policy. And upwards of 20 people who were part of the campaign, who were part of the Trump train, have left the administration. And the question is why? Certainly they did not want to get into politics or want to go through the hell of that brilliantly ran campaign in order to leave. I think a lot of it has to do with these endless investigations, right? We're talking Robert Mueller's Russian witch hunt. To me, this strikes me as a soft judicial coup, because what's happening is people are being hit with these unbelievably high, ever-escalating, ever-increasing legal bills. We've got people in the Trump administration talking about having to liquidate their children's college funds in order to be able to pay off these legal bills from this witch hunt. So to me, this is a way of using legal lawfare for a soft judicial coup to remove the people who drove the Trump train, who drove the agenda, and get them out and then replace them with the usual big globalist Goldman Sachs GOP insiders in a way of defusing the entire momentum of it. And it's a way of making sure that what Trump ran on, which was no amnesty and no DACA and deportations, to make sure that that gets diluted so that the rich GOPs have their cheap gardeners and nannies and the left have their voters. So I think that there is a very dangerous thing that is going on in America, which is the will of the people is being directly thwarted in a highly visible way.
How do we accelerate this cultural victory?
Well, people don't have the capacity to judge rationally as yet. You know, it's been scrubbed out of our education. The trivium is gone. Socratic method is gone. Reason, evidence, economics, logic is all gone. So, and sadly, you have to use some sophistic tricks. And most important, what you have to be is committed. People can't judge your arguments, but they can judge your level of commitment. And if you're committed, people are going to start to take you more seriously. Now, of course, you want to be committed, not looking like you should be committed. So, you know, it's important to be passionate, but not crazy, although obviously the line is a little blurry sometimes. But if you're certain, if you're passionate, if you're committed to what it is that you're into, people will get interested in it, because most people are pretty foggy and they're like leaves on a stream or dandelion fluffs in the wind. Wherever the wind is blowing, that's where they're going to go. So you have to be a hurricane of willpower, and that's what's going to take people. And, you know, that's one of the reasons I've always enjoyed your show, is hurricane of willpower should really be your middle name.
Now, looking at this NFL thing, I think it's a genius thing that Trump did, and clearly I knew the NFL was going to lose. Now they're calling it the suicide of the NFL. Now they're trying to pull back out of it, but their players aren't going to stop. How do you see that train wreck ending?
Well, people are going to have to discover their economic power. It's economic incentives that are driving this. As we mentioned earlier, when people complain, they get money showered on them. Oh, gosh, you know, I give my kid candy when they're whining, and all I'm doing is buying myself more whining. And so people are going to have to, as they've seen with some of the universities, like the social justice universities have seen their enrollments drop like 40% or more. And so people are going to have to remember their economic power when it comes to directing this discourse. The social justice warriors do not infect organizations to improve them, but to destroy them. It's like looking at termites in your house and saying, well, I'm sure they're just here to build me a nice, cozy extension. No, they're there to eat, and they're just going to eat until the house collapses. So the NFL is looking at what, up to $200 million of lost revenue because people are tuning out. Now, that's good in a way. I mean, sports is fun. I love to play sports. I'm not such a big fan of watching sports. And so maybe what people can do is take their time that they used to spend watching sports, educate themselves about what's going on in the cultural wars, and start to participate rather than watching overly steroided, half brain damaged people run into each other on a taxpayer-funded field.
Well, exactly. I mean, the NFL became Americana, and then the NFL thought it was America when the commissioner on Saturday told Trump, no, we didn't disrespect America or the veterans. You disrespected the NFL. The arrogance. That's like Marie Antoinette. I mean, we know Marie Antoinette historically didn't really say let them eat cake. That was revolutionary propaganda. But they were very arrogant and disconnected from the starving people that then stormed the Bastille. And that is a real Marie Antoinette type statement about, no, you disrespected the NFL. I mean, I could see a bunch of veterans have their arms and legs blown off, and then now the country isn't taking care of them, protesting during the anthem, not to attack the flag, but to say this isn't America anymore and flying flags upside down. That's the only kind of group that I think could do that and have a reason to do it. No, it's the opposite. It's a bunch of spoiled, rotten babies that are virtue signaling, and it just shows how disconnected they are and how they claim we're in an echo chamber as libertarians or conservatives and just rational thinkers. But they're really the ones that are in the echo chambers. I invite them on all the time, so-called liberals. They won't come on because they don't want to have a real debate. They are scared of that debate.
Well, they're interested in power. They're not interested in conversation, which is why they're sophists. Like, a sophist is someone who doesn't want to provide you with information, doesn't want to empower you, but wants to control you by inflicting emotionally charged and often bullying conclusions on everything that you say to try and frighten you into self-censorship. You know, America with the First Amendment, it's pretty tough to censor people legally, but you can keep attacking them. You can try and destroy the source of their income. You can attack them all over the place. And that way you can get people to self-censor. And of course, we have to resist that. That is the fear of ostracism that we have to overcome. The left knows that people who aren't leftists are sensitive to ostracism, are sensitive to how they're perceived socially, and they use that to attack you, and we have to resist that and say that the bad opinion of bad people is a badge of honor. And we have to be less sensitive to that. You know, there have been horrible fights throughout history to try and make the world a more free place. And the fact that we have to basically deal with mean typing on the internet makes it about the easiest battle we've ever had to face. You know, look at the Somme in World War I or the Civil War or whatever you want to. I mean, the amount of bloodshed that has been spilled for freedom. Now all we have to do is get over, mean tweets, and we have to fight that kind of war. Oh, no, they might say something mean about me. Well, I think people are waking up to the fact that if bad people are saying bad things about you, that puts you on the sunny side of the field.
Stefan Molyneux is our guest here today. Matt Drudge is a story on Infowars.com. Drudge slams GOP, no different than Dems. And who he's slamming is the GOP leadership that is blocking all this. The Freedom Caucus are wonderful folks. We've almost got control of the GOP. It's why they're fighting so hard. But Drudge is absolutely right. And again, we have Trump's tax reform plan with dramatically lower taxes for the wealthy right down to the working poor. And it's the Republicans blocking it. The answer is what we just saw in Alabama in this primary. The answer is remove their asses. And with Drudge at the head of that, the #1 website in the world, not just site, but total site, we can target each one. And we can show what these people have done and go after them.
Well, then it comes back to this question of amnesty and immigration. And I sort of hate to keep beating that drum, but it really is the only drum that matters right now. Look at the total cost of illegal immigrants and their kids. They outweigh the taxes paid to federal and state governments by about 7 to 1. Right? So they cost $135 billion a year, and they pay taxes at the rate of $19 billion a year. So per illegal alien, American taxpayers are on the hook for over $8,000 a year and citizen child. And that's before the taxes are paid, and just under $7,000 a year after taxes are paid. So I'm a big fan of tax cuts. But if you're going to start talking about amnesty, then you're going to have a...
No, that's right. You've got to cut spending before you do the taxes, or do them together. I want to come back and ask Stefan Molyneux what the world looks like if we fail. If the Renaissance falls. Stefan Molyneux is our guest. Coming up in the third hour, I'm opening the phones up, and I am going to your calls on the NFL, on North Korea, on establishment GOP senator retires rather than risk primary challenger. GOP establishment fears backlash following Roy Moore's victory in Alabama. That's Bob Corker. The word is Flake isn't going to run again. And you see them all arrogant, laughing at Trump, laughing at America, the NFL. They're con men. It's all they do. So remember, just a few days ago, the NFL's really showed Trump they're invincible. There's nothing you can do. We're going to piss all over the flag. We're going to tell you America's evil. You shut up. You're going to kneel to us and do what we say. And A few days later, we're sorry, please come back. You know what? Oh, the president just talked to Jerry Jones. He's going to have them stand with their hands over their hearts. Oh, my gosh. We want to watch a bunch of guys forced to hold their hands over their hearts? I mean, the capitulation now even makes it more weak. Do you agree with that, Stefan Molyneux?
Oh, it's completely ridiculous. The NFL has clear standards that say you got to stand your hand over the heart when the national anthem plays, and it's a fireable offense to break that contract.
Yeah, you're entertainers. You signed a contract. You're on a stage. Do it.
Yeah, it's like, well, I may be the lead in Les Mis, but I don't feel like singing tonight. It's like, sorry, that's kind of the gig. You know, you've got some rules.
Well, I may be a top tennis player, but I'm not going to play tennis today.
I'll be an actor, but I'm not facing a camera. It makes me nervous, right? So, no, this is all silliness. Because people say, well, I want free speech. And then if there are any negative social consequences to that free speech, they then say, I'm being censored. Now, again, if people make up lies about you and so on, that's a whole different matter.
But isn't that it? That once they get you to go, yes, we hate Nazis. Yes, we hate Nazis. Okay, let's ban Nazis. Okay, ban Nazis. Now, everybody's speech is banned, but ours. We're not going to let you have any free speech rally at Berkeley, but then the next day, the Antifa can march and then beat up InfoWars reporters. I know I wanted to ask you about the future. If you do 5 more minutes the next hour, I want to get to that in just a moment. But, Stefan, then that's my question. And I know that's just 5 times, but this is what I keep thinking. It's kind of like a computer program or the bubble of death or the wheel of death. I can't get the answer. How do they escalate now? I guess just towards more violence, because they just get more and more shrill. They think they're not freaking out or bullying enough, so they are getting more aggressive, more violent. What happens?
I think that the violence is blowing back on them a little bit, Alex. I think that people are looking at bloodied conservatives and saying, that does not seem quite right. They're not exactly Nazis. And even if they were, this is why you can't give an inch to the left. They're relentless. They will continue. They want DACA, and then
it's like America bombed the Nazis into a steaming crater, and somehow we're the Nazis now. No, we killed them.
You can't. You have to defend Nazis because the left won't stop at Nazis. That's all well. Is it okay to punch a Nazi? Well, I don't like Nazis, so I guess so. Okay, hey, guess what? You're now a Nazi. Boom, boom, boom. So they're all, you have to stop on principle. You have to push back on principle. You have to defend free speech of people you disagree with, because otherwise they're going to appeal to your emotions, say, well, if you defend the free speech of Nazis, you must like Nazism. It's like, no, I just know what the next thing is, which is you're going to define me as a Nazi, and I'm going to get a bike lock to my bald forehead. So you have to push back on principle, because I think the violence tactic is pushing back. It's blowing back on them. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to try and go to social media sites. They're going to try and influence some kind of censorship on social media sites. I think that being out in the open and being violent, the movement is not there yet. They'd love to get there, but I don't think they're there yet. So I think they're going to try other ways to suppress the voices that they disagree with, rather than, as they should, engage in debate.
Stefan Molyneux is our guest. We're in 5 more minutes on that question I asked but didn't get to. Free Domain Radio is his site. InfoWars is our site. NewsWars is our news site. I want to ask you, if the left wins, if the barbarists win, how does it unfurl? How does it rot? How does the fish decompose? Back in 70 seconds. 70 seconds.